Hello and welcome to another video tutorial. It's going into an auto mix, by the way. It's kind of cool. So this tutorial is kind of geared at showing you various options that you have in your settings page. I'm going to stop this mix now. Go into Systems and Settings. So some of the options you have, you can hit Reboot System. This is you know. Uh, This will go out and it'll reboot the touchscreen. It's going to reset the program and all the bank controllers and the main controller, which is within the same, within the main box. It'll also reset the Wi-Fi stuff. It doesn't reset your like username and password and all that. It just it restarts everything. It's a way to kind of reset the system. So that I won't do that here because this is a simulator and it'll actually reboot my computer. I don't want to do that. We've kind of covered bank config, so I won't redo that. Date and time has been relatively well covered, so that's how you can look at some other previous tutorials on how to handle that. If you want touch beep, for example, so now when I uh, click something, oh, you can't hear it because I have the sound turned off. So let me turn the sound on the computer, and then you'll be able to kind of you can hear it actually beeping now, and that's you're gonna that's if you every time you touch something and you want to hear kind of a tactile sound uh, beep, you can choose to turn that on or off. So I will turn that back off because I personally don't like it, but some people do, and that's cool if you do. So uh, alarm sounds. So if you okay, it's not letting me do it because it's a simulator, but you can turn this on or off, and it will normally in the system, and it will basically audibly beep at you if there's an alarm condition. So that's something that some people find. They go, there's a condition, and they're walking by the system, and there's something wrong, and they kind of want it to beep at them and let them know there's something wrong. So that kind of covers these up here. Um, the overtime seconds. So if you've done a proper auto commissioning process as described in another video tutorial, a previous tutorial, then the system will um, should manage itself quite well. But if you find yourself in the middle of a grow and you can't do an auto commissioning process, you can add you can add to the time that it allows to water something manually here, and it'll just add it out. So if you go in here, it kind of explains that system will do a baseline max runtime calculation, which is computed from the station node volume commands across all enabled banks. This number will be added as an extended runtime per valve. So this is basically adding how many seconds per valve extra do you want. So one thing I'll do real quickly here, just so you another thing I want to point out before I do, I want to make sure I only got one bank. So system maintenance. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll set that, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick commissioning of the system just to make sure. Oops. Hold on a second here. I'm going to do another one because an auto mix kicked on while we were doing it. So it kind of messed with it. That's something you want to do when you're doing a commissioning is you want to make sure your auto mix is off. So I'll just click done. We're going to go back into system settings. We'll turn auto mix off so that doesn't happen again. And then we're going to go back into maintenance. And it looks like it did a good, yeah, I remember I wrote this code. So it actually did a good job anyway, but we'll redo that anyway just to make sure. Start. And there's a reason I'm doing this. It'll make sense in a minute. So this basically, I'm just doing an auto commissioning process. Every time I launch this simulator, I have to do that, unfortunately, because it doesn't remember anything, which is not the case in your real system. It remembers. Okay, so we'll go back to the maintenance page. We'll make sure that number looks reasonable, which it does, and we're good. So now that I did that, I can go in here, and now this is telling you how many seconds the system's going to allow. How many seconds it'll wait before it gives up. to water these. So if I change the volume, for example, on this right now, if I go to 0.5 gallons, which is a higher volume, which will take a longer amount of time, and the system has taught itself how long that time is. So it adds a pretty conservative number to that to make sure that it gives ample time in case there's a restriction in your lines or something. But now if we go into here and here, you'll see that's 46 now. So your volume, and it automatically understands the amount of time it should allow. And this prevents the system from running forever to make sure that you don't, keep trying when it's never going to happen because there's maybe a station node isn't reporting correctly or the valve's not coming on, or who knows. But you're going to get an error, and if you have the text messaging set up, you'll get a text message. But let's say, you know, um, I want to add 1 second per valve. So I would just go, so remember that's 46. So I add one more second, and now that runs out to 58. Remember, it was 12 valves total on that I have enabled currently on one bank controller. If you had a 72 plant system, it's going to add 1 second per valve, so it would be 72 more seconds. But remember, if I go to 0, that drops to 46, and 46 plus 12 is 58, and there you go. So that's a way you can kind of out of bounds kind of add more time because you just don't like you already know it's wrong. Maybe there's just a restriction in a line, but you're not going to tear it down until the grow cycle's done. So this gives you some options to kind of pad the time a little if you're having issues because something happened that's not right, but you can't actually get in there to fix it. You just need to add a little time to make sure it happens. This is what allows you to do that. Um, Offset in gallons. So this is a simulator. So what you're seeing right now is if I say, you know what, I want to start a run and give a half gallon to each plant. Uh, the simulator, is super accurate because it's all solid state and switches fast and everything happens. So you're gonna, when I say zero point 0.5 gallons, it's zero point 0.5 gallons like that. That's it. But in the real life, on a real system, what happens is it takes a little time for the valve to close, and so you'll find that normally you overshoot just a little. It's not much, um, but uh, you can compensate for that, and you'll find it's pretty consistent across all the plants. You can compensate for that by adding a negative number here. So if you open this up, it says offset entry. If the system is delivering more volume than the set point, calculate the difference and put that value in as a negative number. If the system is delivering less volume, put the offset in as a positive number. So what you're basically doing is saying, hey, subtract, if I'm going to 5.1 gallons, for example, or 0.51, sorry, uh, you would want to say negative zero point 0.1, and it would subtract that off the top. So I'll give you a good example here. So we'll go in here. I'll say negative zero point 0.1. Okay, so now what's going to happen is it's going to deliver 4.9 gallons, I believe, is what we'll actually see here. So we'll run it here and see what happens. Or I'm sorry, zero point 0.4 gallons because I put it in as 0.1. So, and it thinks it has a volume error because I told it to deliver less. So that's actually cool. That shows you what happens when you have a volume error. And then you go to here and you can look at all your volume errors. And if you had your cell module hooked up, you would have got a text letting you know you had a volume error. So, but this can be used because it'll also trigger this if you overwater the plants if you go too high. So for example, if I go into system and I go into settings and I just do zero point 0.1, okay, now it's gonna end up delivering 0.6 gallons now. So here we go, because I went as a positive number. I'm basically telling it how much to add or not subtract from the baseline. So you see, I went all the way out to 0.6, and I'm also going to get a volume error on this because uh, it's outside the threshold. The threshold is 0.075. So you see there it goes. You have a volume error. You got a problem. So, and it told me I got the volume error there. So, and now I'm going to go into here. So you get the idea. Basically, this is how you can kind of tweak the system into compliance. And then if I just go to zero it out, because this is a simulator, it'll it'll hit exactly the right numbers. By the way, just so you know, what I find generally speaking is negative 0.027 seems to be a pretty good number for the overshoot for the most part. So, and you'll see these errors are going to clear when everything's good. So there it goes. Everything was happy. So this is a way for you to kind of offset by whatever and you'll find it's pretty consistent across all the plants. It has to do with the amount of time it takes the valve to actually close and those things. So this is a way you can really fine tune exactly what you're delivering to your plant. So uh, the other thing, okay, so there's that. The auto mix we've kind of covered. This is dual tank uh, mode. So when I do that, so you're going to get a warning here. So this is worth noting. So if I go to here, so the dual tank and single tank gives you the option to run uh, two tanks, and you can choose which, or no, you can't choose. The system will automatically choose which valves to run. I'll actually cover this more in a separate tutorial, but this is basically allowing you to run two different tanks if you want two different nutrients and select which tank you want to pull from, which tanks you want to mix, how you want to mix, all that happy stuff. And then this is enabling or disabling your float switch kit. So when I do that, and if I were trying to run the system, it would give me an error because I don't have a float switch hooked up. So and it's worth noting in dual tank mode, you have to have a float switch hooked up, and I'll explain that in the other tutorial. But that pretty much covers settings pages. The bank valve config, that's already kind of been covered in previous tutorials. This is just a way for you to enable and disable station nodes. So I hope you find this helpful. That's it for now in this tutorial. There's more tutorials to come. Take care. So long for now.